This is your primetime forecast for East Alabama and West Georgia from Dr. Don's Weather. Dr. Don's Weather is made possible by the Randolph County Commission, East Alabama Waste, Southern Auction Solutions, Genesis Weight Clinic, Jimmy Stevens Construction, Anchor Roofing, the Town of Wadley, Auction 431 South, the Salem Auction House and Bama Diesel Repair. From the Alpha Weather Center, powered by Boondocks Barbecue and Creamery, Southern Union State Community College and the venue at 5 Points Farms, here's Dr. Don.
And happy Tuesday, East Alabama and West Georgia. Dr. Don in here with you, and we've got gorgeous weather across Alabama and most of Georgia, and we have a major hurricane down in the Gulf of Mexico. We'll tell you all about it coming up in this morning's edition of your primetime forecast for Tuesday, October 8th, 2024 on Dr. Don's Weather. Ms. Sonja Hollomon at Hunter Ben Realty Services. Thank you for being a partner with us here on Dr. Don's Weather. If you're looking for some property up on beautiful Lake Wedowee or in the Randolph County area, you want to call Sonja at 678-778-3945. She is in the know, and she has all of your real estate ideas for the Randolph County and particularly the Lake Wedowee area. You can also check her out on Facebook, and be sure you get in touch with Sonja today. Give her an email at Sonja@hunterben.com. Sonja Hollomon, we appreciate you, Miss Sonja. Also, for all of your insurance needs, you want to get your ducks in a row with Dukas. Call Jamie Dukas at 256-831-7770. Jamie is right there in Woodland, Alabama, and he can write insurance in both Alabama and in Georgia, can handle your commercial and your personal insurance needs. He'll even come sit down in your living room. It's Jamie Dukas for Alpha Insurance across Alabama and Georgia. No severe weather to deal with in the foreseeable future across Alabama or Georgia. We've got a string of beautiful days on the way for you, much cooler temperatures. I mean, you step outside this morning and you're like, whoa, when did fall arrive? It feels great out there. Cool start to your Tuesday. Major Hurricane Milton now down in the Gulf of Mexico, and no rain in sight for Alabama or Georgia in the foreseeable future. We have several things going on here. Let me just kind of go on over to the tropics and we'll show you Major Hurricane Milton. Now, folks, let me tell you something. If you have family or friends or loved ones that live down there in Central Florida, you want to pick up your phone this morning and you want to call them and you want to beg and you want to plead with them to get out of the path of this hurricane. Now, we just dealt with a devastating storm across Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, parts of Alabama, and Florida. And we're nowhere near recovery from that event. Now, here comes another one that's going to move across Central Florida. And this storm has the potential of being catastrophic, especially right where the center of circulation moves across Florida. Now, that doesn't mean that's the only area that's going to have devastating weather. The storm is going to grow much larger before it makes landfall. It may weaken as far as wind is concerned, wind speed, but it may broaden out and affect a much larger area. And storm surge on the western Florida coast is going to be astronomical. I mean, we're seeing some verbiage from the National Hurricane Center that is basically telling you to get out of the way of the path of this hurricane. Now, the strongest winds in a hurricane are always around the inner eye wall where the storm tracks. But understand, folks, hurricanes are not like tornadoes. Tornadoes normally affect, in the southeast, 100, maybe 200 yard wide, and they're typically, on the ground for a half a mile, maybe a mile. Hurricanes are much different. I mean, they're much larger. They affect a much greater area. So if you're anywhere in the vicinity of Tampa, St. Petersburg, down to the south, you don't want to stay. I was seeing people on television yesterday saying, We've ridden several hurricanes down here before. We're not going to leave. That's foolish, people. You do want to leave. You do not want to play with this hurricane. I mean, just evacuate. Go somewhere away from where the center of circulation is going to track. Don't stay there. Even if you survive the hurricane, and if you're out there on the West Coast, there's a high likelihood it's not going to be survivable. But even if you do survive the hurricane, you're going to be without basic life necessities for days, if not weeks. And you may get trapped and you can't get out. Don't put yourself or your family in that type situation. Just evacuate. If your local government is telling you to leave, get in your automobile. If you don't have an automobile, call your local government, tell them you don't have any way to get out. They will make arrangements to get you out. Get away from the track of this hurricane. You don't want to be caught up in this. I hate that Florida has to deal with it, but thankfully it's not going to affect South Georgia. At least that's the way it looks right now. We're still reeling from Hurricane Helene from last week across southeast Georgia. For you folks in Florida who are going to evacuate, if you're going to be coming north, if you're coming up into the state of Georgia, we welcome you with open arms, and we will help take care of you. However, understand southeast Georgia is still in recovery mode from last week's hurricane. Very few hotels or shelters would be available for you in southeast Georgia. You want to come up to at least Augusta, Macon, Columbus, and points north. Atlanta, Athens, Gainesville, Rome, even on up into the Blue Ridge Mountains, up here in Helen, Georgia. Come north. Don't try to find a place down there in southeast Georgia. I mean, you may find some rooms in Savannah, places like that, but probably very few. Best option would likely be to go over to the Florida Panhandle, Panama City, Destin, Fort Walton Beach, Gulf Shores, Alabama, Mobile, Biloxi. You know, it's midweek, and a lot of folks are back in school, so the hotels are pretty much wide open down there. But if you come up into Georgia, just make sure you go north of that Augusta, Macon, Columbus line if you're going to be seeking shelter from Hurricane Milton. At one point yesterday, the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Gulf of Mexico, and that is saying a lot. Now, it was the strongest based on the pressure. The pressure dropped down to 897 millibars. That's the lowest we've ever seen in the Gulf of Mexico. Winds were at 180 miles per hour at one point, gusting to 200 miles per hour. You cannot survive something like that, folks. Now, we do anticipate, and it already has happened, we've gone from Category 5 back down to Category 4 this morning, and we will see fluctuations in the wind field, the strength of the wind as Milton moves east across the Gulf of Mexico. And we'll see the storm broaden out and get larger. And we may drop down to a Category 3 before we see landfall on Wednesday somewhere around or south of Tampa. But don't let that lull you into a false sense of security. Hey, this hurricane's weakening, so I'm going to stay. Don't do that. Category 3 is still devastating, and it's going to cause a tremendous amount of damage. Storm surge 10 to 15 feet. The Tampa Bay area is possible and to the point south. And the wind destruction is going to be incredible, especially along the coastline. So understand there will be fluctuations. It may be weakening as it makes landfall. Still going to be an extremely catastrophic, damaging hurricane when it makes landfall. Don't put your life or your family's life in jeopardy. Don't take that chance. Get out of there. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this. And I know I spend a lot of time on it sometimes, but you know what? If one person in the path of this hurricane finds this video this morning and finally makes that decision to leave and that life is saved, we're good. That's what this is all about. Get out of the way of that hurricane. Don't ride it out. It's not worth taking that risk. So here's the current conditions at the venue at 5 Points Farms and 5 Points, Alabama. Currently 56 degrees. No wind at the moment. Humidity is 84%. Barometric pressure 29.89. Dew point is 51. The high temperature yesterday was 84.7. Sunrise this morning was at 6:42, and the sun sets this evening at 6:18 p.m. We have cool and mostly fair skies out there across East Alabama and West Georgia at this hour. Looking for a nice day. Cool start. Will warm up this afternoon into the 80s. 82 over in Pine Mountain, 80 in Roanoke. We'll hit 79 up in Carrollton, 83 in Alexander City. And, we're going to see pretty good swing in temperatures because of that dry air that's in place. We'll be cool in the mornings and we'll warm up pretty good in the afternoon. So here's your 6-day forecast from the Alpha Weather Center. Jamie Dukas, your local Alpha agent. And look at that string of sunny days. No rain in sight for East Alabama or West Georgia. 80 will be your high today, down to 56 tonight. Wednesday, 79, 56 your overnight low. Thursday, 78. Friday in the mid-70s, upper 70s on Saturday, and maybe back up into the 80s by Sunday. Friday night football looks fantastic at this time across East Alabama and West Georgia. Southern Union State Community College live Doppler HD radar showing no precipitation across East Alabama and West Georgia. If you'll go down, you can see the track of Milton this morning, and again at one point yesterday, this storm just exploded. We went from a Category 1 to a Category 5 in a matter of just a few hours yesterday. I've been watching weather now for a very, very long time, and I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that. Made it to 897 millibars of pressure, which is the largest or the strongest pressure-wise hurricane we have ever seen in the Gulf of Mexico. Winds were at 180 miles per hour with gusts to 200 miles per hour at one point. We'll start to see a turn back off to the northeast today. Probably will regain Category 5 strength in the next 12 hours. And then that trek to the north, being steered by a couple of different weather features. We have a trough down in the Lesser Antilles, and then we have that what's left of the cold front that may move through our area yesterday is sinking down into the northern Gulf. So the hurricane's kind of in a squeeze play between those two systems, and that's what's going to turn it back off to the northeast. Probably will drop back down to Category 4. And right now we expect a Category 3 at landfall. It could be a upper end Category 3, or it could still be a Category 4 at landfall. Either way, this is going to be an extremely dangerous hurricane when we get landfall. Now, the $64 million question is, does it come in just north of Tampa? Does it come in right over Tampa, or does it come into the south of Tampa, back down toward Sarasota? That's big because of the storm surge here in Tampa Bay. If it makes it up to around Newport, maybe Newport Richie up here, or maybe Spring Hill, then that puts Tampa Bay on the south side of the circulation, and that's worst case scenario for storm surge. If it does come in down around Sarasota or just north of Sarasota, then that's better for Tampa Bay because that puts the bay on the north side of the circulation, which means there would be an offshore flow, which would be pushing water out of Tampa Bay instead of piling it up in Tampa Bay. So it's a close call right now as to whether this is going to be a major surge issue in Tampa Bay or not. Either way, don't take a chance and stay in that area. I think as we get down here around Cape Coral and south of Port Charlotte, that's going to be a problem north of Fort Myers regardless, because I think it will be north of this area. So storm surge is going to be big down there also. And then it's going to trek right across central Florida and then back out into the Atlantic. I think it will become subtropical pretty quickly as it gets out into the Atlantic. But major issues on the way for the state of Florida. If you're in the path of this storm, get out of the way. Understand, folks, this is going to grow in size, so it's going to affect the entire Florida peninsula. I think the only part of Florida that's not going to be greatly affected by this hurricane may be up here in the Panhandle. From maybe Apalachicola back to the west, you're okay. But from Jacksonville all the way to Key West, you're going to see something off of this hurricane. And right there across central Florida, from just north of Miami up to around Orlando, is where the worst of it's going to be. And it's going to be devastating over on the west side of the coast. There will be lots of tree damage and structural damage from wind all the way across central Florida before this is over with. If you were watching news yesterday, you saw the governor down there using some extremely strong language trying to get people's attention. Get out of the way. I mean, I was watching folks yesterday, and I know I'm going way overboard with this, but it just concerns me because somebody's not going to listen and they're going to lose their life. They were showing video yesterday of folks filling up sandbags for flooding. Folks, if you're anywhere around Tampa or south, those little sandbags that you're wasting all your time filling up, if you're on the West Coast, is not going to do you an ounce of good. That is a feel-good thing that you do. It makes you feel good that you're helping prepare for a storm that you cannot prepare for. Leave. Don't worry about filling up sandbags. Get the heck out of Dodge down there. Don't take a chance on this. Your life and your family's life depends on it. I just wish I could go down there and grab these people and shake them and say, look, go back and look at what's happened. Look at all the lives were lost just last week. Look at what happened in Katrina. This is the Florida West Coast Katrina. Remember Andrew? Andrew came in from the east and cut Florida in half. Same thing, but it's coming from a different direction. Do not take a chance on this storm. If you're in the path of the eye of this storm, leave. And that's not all I've got to say about that, but for now, we'll leave it right there. Folks, we'd love to have your support. We depend on you, and we need your support. So we invite you to go to the top of this video on Facebook, bottom of the video on YouTube. You'll find a barrage of different links there and different ways that you can support us, whether it's just making a donation or going to our weather store and pick up a Dr. Don coffee cup, a T-shirt, or a baseball cap. Part of the proceeds come back to support us here at Dr. Don's Weather. And if you own a business, if you're part of a civic organization, municipal or county government, and you'd like to be a partner with us here on Dr. Don's Weather, we would love to have you. All you have to do is send me a message on Messenger or Discord, and I can have you started by the time we do our very next weather forecast, which, if the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, will happen first thing tomorrow morning right here on Dr. Don's Weather.
This has been your primetime forecast for East Alabama and West Georgia. From the Alpha Weather Center, powered by Southern Union State Community College, the venue at 5 Points Farms and Boondocks Barbecue and Creamery, Dr. Don's Weather is supported by the Randolph County Commission, East Alabama Waste, Southern Auction Solutions, Genesis Weight Clinic, Jimmy Stevens Construction, Anchor Roofing, the Town of Wadley, Auction 431 South, the Salem Auction House, and Bama Diesel Repair. Be sure to like us on Facebook, share us with all of your friends, and subscribe to Dr. Don's Weather on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow morning with another edition of your primetime forecast on Dr. Don's Weather.